All right, good evening, everyone, and welcome to the October 28, 2019 Westminster City Council meeting. Before we open, a reminder that normally next Monday would be a study session for the council. There is a little thing called an election going on following morning. So the council has deferred the study session from the 4th, and we will not have another meeting until the 11th. So if you were planning to come visit and listen to us next Monday, you have a night off. At this time, I would like to ask you all to please join us with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, Ms. Fitch, would you take the roll, please?
Atchison.
Here.
DeMott.
Here.
Haney. Mankey. Here. Seitz.
Here.
Scully. Here. Vols.
Here.
Council, at this time, I would ask for a motion to excuse Ms. Haney. She's unable to attend with us tonight.
So
Ms.
moved.
Seitz?
Oops, sorry.
Second.
Okay, I have a motion and a second. All in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed? Hearing none, the motion is carried. Next item on the agenda is the consideration of the minutes of the preceding meeting. Mr. DeMott.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I move the City Council approve the minutes of the October 14th, 2019 meeting as presented.
And is there a second to the motion? Mr. Vols?
I second the motion.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor of the motion as presented, please signify by aye.
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 Any opposed? Hearing none, motion is carried. We're on to item 4. Ms. Scully, if you would, please.
Hi, how are you?
Good, how are you?
I'm good.
Good.
Nice to see you. Do you have people you'd like to invite up?
Yes, absolutely. First of all, thank you, Counselor, for presenting this award to our student intern supervisors. The student internship program is very valued for us. We partner high school students with members of the employees here in the city, and we provide work-related internship programs for those high school students. So we'd like to thank some of those supervisors today. So if you're here and you participated in one of the internship program, either in 2018 or 2019, we'd love for you to come up.
Oh, what a great group. Thank you so much for all you've done for our students in Jefferson County. I have a little bit I'm going to read about this program because I think this is a super important program in our city. So let me read just a little bit. Since the program's inception in 2018, 28 employees have participated in the city's internship program. The program matches experienced employees with local youth to provide professional level experience in career areas across city departments. How many of you ever did an internship before you got started in your career? Thank you. That's awesome. I did one too, and I tell you, that is what launched my career, was that internship, because it was that connection with that person that really helped guide me into my field and show me what needed to be done and how to do it. Because let's face it, when we're all getting started, we are clueless. We don't know what we're doing out there or how to get started. But it's that mentorship that this person provides to us. And to this day, I am still connected to my mentor, who was my internship connection, and it happens to be Counselor Haney. So I'm very proud of that. She connected me with Fort Range Community College, and 20 years later, I'm still working for them. So you can see how it really lends to that longevity in our careers as well. This was the city's second year with the Jefferson County Public Schools internship program, and Jefferson County is my personal county that I stem from as well, but we also work with Adams 12, 5-star schools, and Westminster Public Schools. We are so lucky in our city to have 3 great public school systems that work so hard with our youth. And something else that's really important to remember is that this is where we build our pipeline from, our workforce pipeline. These are the people that will be living in our city 10, 15, 20 years, 30 years, 50 years from now. And we want them to stay in our city, work here, live here, play here, and this is how we're working to help that happen. So I really appreciate all the work you have all done with our students this year. I do have a statement to read as well, because they provide me with good things here. So the city established a partnership with Jefferson County Public Schools Executive Internship Program in 2018, where it has since provided work-related experience for 5 high school students from the program. On September 26, 2019, Jefferson County Public Schools Executive High School Internship Program Director Sharon Usher presented the city with an award in recognition for excellence in mentoring. In addition to the Jefferson Public Schools partnership, the city also partners with Ullman Technical Education Center and Westminster High School to provide high school students with the opportunity to earn school credit and gain practical work experience in a chosen professional technical career under the supervision of an experienced city employee. The intern supervisors who participate in these 3 school partnerships are carefully selected and are recognized in the city as employees who consistently exceed the city's spirit values. As such, all intern supervisors are recognized for excellence in serving area youth. And we have this lovely award that I get to give to Martha. I kind of want to keep it, but no, I'll let you have it. So we can all gather in close. We'll have our picture taken here. Thank you so much. It's a pleasure. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Mr. Voles, if you would, please.
The folks who are here for Law Enforcement Records Personnel Week, can you come forward, please? We could start. So this is a real honor for me to recognize part of our team who are behind the scenes, professionals dedicated to what you do. Could you please introduce yourselves before I read the proclamation? Then maybe you could tell us a little bit about what you do.
I'm Janice White. I'm one of the supervisors in records. I'm Rhoda Kyle. I'm the support service administrator. My name's Lisa James. Debbie Sinicki.
Vince Catalano. John Lovis. Thanks for being here tonight. And can you tell us a little bit or share with us a little bit what you do in your
Sure. We're at the records unit at the Westminster Police Department. I like to say we're the beating heart of the whole entire department. Everything that is filtered, or every report that is created within our organization, filters through our unit. So we process those reports and disseminate them to the courts, to attorneys, all over the place. We also deal with citizens coming in asking for records requests. So that's kind of a little snapshot of what we do.
Good. Well, thank you for being here. I'll read the proclamation now. Whereas dedicated law enforcement records personnel serve the citizens of the City of Westminster and provide them with vital services. And whereas law enforcement records personnel are crucial to assisting law enforcement agencies in the identification, pursuit, capture, and processing of suspects. And whereas these professionals continually use their expertise and experience in maintaining criminal justice agency records and statistics, in providing data and improving apprehension strategies. And whereas the efficiency of the qualified and committed personnel of staff of the Law Enforcement Records Division is influenced by the people's attitude and understanding the importance of the work they perform. And whereas Westminster citizens encourage to recognize city's law enforcement records personnel for their valuable contributions to our law enforcement community. Now, therefore, I, Herb Atchison, Mayor of the City of Westminster, on behalf of the entire City Council and staff, do hereby proclaim November 4th through 8th to be Law Enforcement Records Personnel Week. And call upon the people of Westminster to join in honoring the men and women whose diligence and professionalism keep our city and its citizens safe.
Yeah.
All right, the next item on our agenda is the public comment period. This is a period of time that's reserved for comments on any issues or items pertaining to city business, except for those for which a formal public hearing is scheduled under Section 10. If you are here to testify on an item under Item 10, please wait until we call you for the comments at that time. We ask you to limit your comments to 5 minutes. When you are recognized, please come forward. Once you start to speak, the green light will come on. When you have 1 minute left, it will turn yellow, and when your time is up, it will turn red. First person I have who has signed up is Amy Yeager. Good evening, ma'am.
Good evening. Since 2006, and in that time, just so enjoyed working with the incredible open space staff here in Westminster. One of the key things that Butterfly Pavilion does is conserve habitat for invertebrates. Those are animals without backbones, especially things like pollinators or things like dragonflies and damselflies. And why I'm here this evening is I really want to speak a little bit about not only habitat restoration, but the opportunities that we have as Westminster grows and reaches more people and the community becomes sort of more diverse, to really provide connectivity for some of these animals by including habitat in all the landscaping plans as new developments come across. One of the things that Butterfly Pavilion is working on right now is the idea of a pollinator district, where even if we can't conserve the habitat, we can at least connect habitats and improve developed areas so that they do provide wildlife habitat for songbirds, for butterflies, for other pollinators. And in the long run, it provides more resiliency for a community. It also, one of the things that I'm most excited about is it really connects people to their community in a way that makes them cultivated as stewards. And that's something that our partnership with the City of Westminster, we have participated in a program called the Urban Prairies Project, where we train restoration master volunteers to take part in the long-term restoration of these urban and suburban habitats for wildlife. And I think all of us probably have at least neighbors, if not ourselves. We love to go out on the open space trails and see those rail-tailed hawks and those butterflies and things like that. And I think it's part of the quality of life for Westminster. So just a little something from the bug nerd's perspective I wanted to share with you all tonight. So thank you very much.
Ma'am. Elaine Adair.
Hello, my name is Elaine Adair, and I live just north of 88th Avenue near Federal Boulevard, neighboring the current Pillar of Fire farmland. And I am here today to speak about my love of my neighborhood, particularly in terms of its current construction. My boyfriend and I purchased our first home in this area 4.5 years ago, in large part due to its proximity to such a beautiful parcel of undeveloped land. These days in the Denver metro area, such spaces are often hard to come by, but they are so very critical to their surrounding communities in order to allow a sense of space and connectivity to our beautiful state of Colorado. Every day, I start my mornings walking our dog around the neighborhood, and as we head south on any nearby street, I have the privilege of experiencing the view of growing corn husks, a distant historical landmark in the Westminster Castle, and perhaps a single car driving along Shaw Boulevard as the city awakens. This start to the day, when things are still quiet, brings me so much joy, but also such a feeling of groundedness and a sense of belonging. And those feelings heavily rely on having adjacent properties that have not been developed. Similarly, my boyfriend and I both regularly find ourselves pulling over on our drives to and from work to take pictures of the stunning mountain views and picturesque sunsets that exist on a daily basis due to the presence of one of the last remaining open vistas in the area. And even more importantly than the photo opportunities, we both use the existence of this undeveloped space as a virtual meditative catalyst and stress reliever. This undeveloped land prompts a healthy form of escapism from the stresses of everyday city life that we all can relate to: traffic, noise, or just a hard day at work. It isn't often that someone living in an urban setting can experience all of these wonderful things, not to mention the connection to wildlife such as raptors, owls, bees, and coyotes, all of which we have seen in the area. Listening to various conversations of other community members, it is safe to say that many of our neighbors have similar viewpoints. It is with these sentiments, and in conjunction with the points brought up previously by Amy Yarger, that I request the Westminster City Council to review its open space wish list and consider the potential addition of the Pillar of Fire farmland to this list. In speaking with city employees, the review of the open space wish list is meant to happen on an annual basis, but may not actually be happening that frequently. This farmland offers a wealth of opportunities for the city to continue to provide mountain views and trail and open space connectivity to residents of southern Westminster, as well as to preserve a piece of land that connects the city to its agricultural history. Additionally, this land has the opportunity to create a positive net habitat area, generating a greater space for wildlife, including species that already reside there. In conclusion, I urge the city to consider not just the economic health of Westminster, but also the ecosystem health and the human health of its residents by considering the addition of the Pillar of Fire farmland to its open space wish list. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Mr. Terry.
Welcome, Mayor and council members. Thank you for the opportunity to speak. I'm Britt Terry, here with Friends of Stanley Lake. Just to give you a quick update, 2 weeks ago we were facing a subcommittee meeting and a task force meeting, and those did happen. I think we've made quite a bit of progress. A lot of the solutions that we've been talking about for the last long time, I'm almost going to have to get a long sleeve yellow shirt here soon, but we've been talking about these solutions for a while. And I think we're getting very, very close to having something that's workable for the 2020 boating season. We have had some setbacks in the no-key electronic locks, which I think the city's kind of almost ready to make a commitment to buy, $350,000 worth of locks that we can use. But we're waiting on some software on those. In lieu of having those here before the 2020 season started, as a task, as a tagging subcommittee, we've actually come up with a couple of alternative plans that we believe are workable, will let us get started. And then as the no-key lock comes into production, we can phase that in and phase the other solution out. So I think we're going to have double coverage for a little while. I think that double coverage is probably a good idea. These locks were working great for quite a while, and then we ran into some software bugs, and this just gets us out of being one-to-one connected to those and potentially starting boating and then having to stop. We did pull together an RFID tag, which has some huge advantages. We've got a physical tag that we're going to use, a vetted cable, and we're going to combine those two solutions to actually work together. The RFID tag is really nice because now the ranger can walk up and without having to even look at the tag, tell if the tag's open, closed. It can tell if it was tampered with or if it was tried to be counterfeited. So we've got now an electronic system that's as good as the lock, but it's in a physical tag. It's used at nuclear facilities and such around the country here. The number one tag manufacturer in the world is actually making those. So the combination of all these, I think we're hopefully gonna get back on the lake, restore trailer boating with no safety concerns for the water supply here in Westminster. That being said, hopefully there are other elements that are happening in parallel that we have zero visibility to, don't know, right? The legal agreement for a new boating agreement has got to be put together. I'm hoping that we don't get all the way through all this tagging stuff to find out that those haven't started. So we trust that those things are happening in parallel, and I know the city meets on this at city staff level as frequently as they can, and if these things are happening in parallel, we should end in a good spot. The parallel piece to this, it's really, really important. We do have some timelines that are starting to stack up. February is just around the corner. So just trying to keep things moving. Appreciate the opportunity to come and give you guys kind of an update, and we'll continue to do so throughout the winter here. Thank you.
At this time, that's all the people I have who had signed up for an opportunity to speak on the open comment period. Is there anyone that we missed? Yes, ma'am, come on down. And for the record, I'll need your name and address, please.
Yeah, I'm sorry I came in a little late. I signed up there, but my name is Karen Calavity. I live at 9940 Westcliff Parkway. I just heard the ending of the woman who was speaking about Pillar of Fire, and I want to concur with some of her comments that, that's about 200 acres, and at least some of that should be able to be incorporated in Westminster's open space, or at least a theme of an agricultural element to that neighborhood should be incorporated. I was very happy to attend that Harvest Fest. That's a great event. I really enjoy it. That's my second year. But I did speak with some of the people in the Westminster tent, and for the master plan, there's this, all the architecture looks the same from neighborhood to neighborhood that people are proposing. And these neighborhoods should have some distinct characteristics. And I think the Pillar of Fire minimum should have an agricultural theme and space. I also wanted to mention that, there's an opportunity for us in conjunction with Adams County to start working on facilities that would recycle tires and plastic, and we need to start doing something like that on a large scale as a business. All right, thank you.
Is anyone else? Okay, not seeing one, we'll move on then. Next item up is a report of city officials. Mr. Tripp.
Mr. Mayor, members of council, just a couple of brief comments because you may be piling on at least one of these. I had an opportunity on Saturday to have a tour of the Gregory Hill water tanks, as many of you did also. And I just want to take a little bit of my time to congratulate and to thank our engineers, our Public Works Utilities staff for the outstanding job they did at putting public infrastructure in a neighborhood for a really, really important public utility. A feature that protects our water supply for at least another 75 to 100 years. But not just that, to have a public utility project built in a community within a neighborhood and have it be as positively received as that is, with the great architecture and the work that the department and communication staff throughout the city did with those neighbors. We had a little bit of a rocky beginning, as you might recall, but the end game was pretty darn good, and I'm really proud of that work, folks. I really appreciate it. Those are also the folks that were up this morning punching an alarm about 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning in other departments to hit one of our first snowstorms, and we've got more coming on the way, so I want to thank our staff for the time that they've spent on that. And I want to thank the folks that made comment tonight. We really appreciate you coming, and on this snowy evening, it's a commitment on your part to participate in the city council process, and we appreciate you being here.
This time I'll turn it over to the council. Does anyone from the council have any comments? Ms. Scully, if you would.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. First of all, thank you everyone who's here tonight and ventured out on this cold, interesting evening. I don't remember a colder October in the 45 years I've lived here in Colorado. So thank you for coming out tonight and being brave enough to come forward and talk to us about some of your concerns, because I think that is truly what we're about up here, and I appreciate hearing everything that you have to say. I had the great opportunity to attend the Westminster Forward that was held about a week and a half ago at the MAC down on 72nd and just about Federal. And wow, what a great presentation from our staff. Really took a lot of time. Everybody met with all the public and explained things and were very detailed, and I just really appreciated that. I hope you all got a chance to attend as well. And they had the opportunity to test our water, try it out and see which water was the best. We haven't heard the results yet, so I'm looking forward to hearing those results soon. And that was very exciting. Then also we had our Harvest Festival, and what another brilliant year with our Harvest Festival. So many people, so many great vendors. Loved meeting with each of the Westminster departments that were present there, and I heard that from so many people in my neighborhood who called me afterwards and emailed me and talked about what a great festival that was and how much they really enjoyed it, and they look forward to many more. And then I too got to visit Gregory Hill opening this weekend, and I was not on council at the time when that was being brought forward, but I was here in attendance, and I remember what a trying beginning it was. But I have to tell you that meeting with the residents at Gregory Hill, they seem very satisfied with how things have come about, and what a beautiful facility. And our water is just so important, so I love to see these upgrades. I love to see how we're really working hard in this city to maintain our infrastructure and work hard to keep it updated so that not only can we enjoy it for many years to come, but our children will be able to also enjoy it for many years to come.
Ms. Mankey.
I just want to thank everyone who came out tonight, and also those who spoke tonight. Really appreciate hearing comments about the people's connections to our open space. I also wanted to give a shout out to Amy, who I think left, but I did the Urban Prairies Project with her, and I learned so much about horticulture and invertebrates and how to restore our open spaces, and it's a really wonderful program. She's amazing, and they've done amazing work there, so just really thankful for that.
Ms. Light.
Thank you. I also am going to say thank you to everyone for coming out tonight and for those who spoke. I also want to say thank you to the different members of our staff who had interns. Anyone who's had an intern knows it takes a good deal of work and effort and thought to make sure that it's a meaningful experience for your intern. You know, it's not just a helper, but really it takes effort. And so I appreciate it because it really is paying it forward and helping someone grow their affinity for local government and help them in their career. So thank you to everyone who participated in that, and that's something I'm very proud of that the city has done. I also want to thank you to those who came out from our PD, from the records department. The integrity of the chain of evidence is such an important part of justice and of fairness. And so it's a huge responsibility and something I'm thankful that we have dedicated professionals handling for us. Outside, all of us saw the snow. Some of us enjoyed it, some of us it wasn't welcome, but we had members of our staff who got up bright and early and helped clear our path so people could make it to work and to school. So I wanted to say thank you. And if you are in the mood to get more involved with the city, I would encourage you to participate in our Snow Busters program. It is a program that has neighbors go and help senior citizens or members of our community that are disabled clear the snow in front of their house within the first 24 hours of a snowstorm. We always have a backlog of folks that need that type of assistance, and it's a great way to give back. So consider signing up. You can go on our website. You'll contact Martha Hines, but I think it's a great way to give back. Finally, I want to say the Harvest Festival was a huge success this year. What a way to build happiness in our community, from kids to senior citizens. I saw a lot of smiling faces. I want to say thank you to all of the members of staff who planned it, that participated in kind of letting residents see what type of work we do here, from our Public Works Department to our Planning Department. There was a lot of folks there. And then we had citizen volunteers from our different boards and commissions, our Environmental Advisory Board, our Inclusivity Board, really trying to do outreach and work to educate our residents on all of the different good things we're doing in the city. So thank you to everyone who made it such a good success.
Just a quick follow-up on the Harvest Festival. Not only did we see a lot of staff time out there, but I wanted to specifically thank the Victory Church and Harbor Church in their different colored shirts. We had over 50 volunteers that spent the day out there from the two churches helping out with all the games and other parts of that. Going back to the Gregory Hill, I think he is absent tonight by choice. In fact, I think he did everything he could not to show up here tonight. The project manager on that is a guy by the name of Dan Striedelmeyer. That project completion for him shows that he has now completed over $100 million worth of construction projects in this city in the time he's been with the city, not counting the project he's still working on. So for us to have someone with the dedication and the amount of work that he brings here, Dan Striedelmeyer has been an asset to the city for a very long time. He's going to be retiring next year. But Max, he doesn't get to retire till that other tank is done. Good man. Still got one more for him to finish, but we want to thank Dan for all the work he did. And as Councilor Scully said, a lot of the people who were down there that in the beginning were somewhat opposed to the project all came by, talked to the contractor, talked to the staff, and they were ecstatic about how well it turned out. And they're very much a different mind today than they were a year ago. And a lot of that goes to the staff and to Dan in particular about the work he did with the local people there. So we thank you very much for the work he did. Moving on to our next item, this is the consent agenda. This is a set of routine matters that we act on with a single motion. We have reviewed these at the pre-meeting. No member of council asked for any item to be removed. So at this time, we will open it up for a motion. Mr. DeMott.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I move that City Council adopt consent agenda items 8A through 8D.
Ms. Scully.
I second.
Okay, if you will, ladies and gentlemen, go with your lights. And the motion carries on a 6-0 vote. Next item on the agenda is item 10. This is the 10A. This is a public hearing on the preliminary development plan amendment and official development plan for Church Ranch Home Place Filing 10. Staff?
Just one moment, please.
Go ahead.
We're having battery issues at the moment.
Okay,
Sorry.
go ahead. just go ahead and set up, and we'll take
Sorry.
a short pause while you're finishing that up. So Ms. Fitch, put us on pause for a minute. Council, if you need a short break, we'll do that while they're getting things set up.
No. Let's get a restart on that. I had it all charged up. I don't know. It started though. I've never heard it. Yeah, that was kind of crazy. Yeah.
Yeah. All right, Ms. Fitch, you get us back on the record, please. Okay,
All right, thank you very much.
we need it on the screen, so. There you go.
Okay, thank you. Sorry about that. Never heard a laptop make that noise before, so that was a new one for me. Good evening. My name's Stephanie Ashman. I'm a senior planner with the city's Community Development Department. Tonight, we're here to talk about the Legends at Church Ranch application that was submitted to the city for review. Dominion, the developer and owner of a 6.8 acre parcel located at the southeast corner of Church Ranch Boulevard and Wadsworth Boulevard, has made an application to the city to approve a preliminary development plan amendment and an official development plan for this property. The requested recommendation of approval is being done to support the future development of the site as a senior affordable apartment development to be known as Legends of Church Ranch. Tonight, the applicant is seeking your approval of the PDP amendment and the ODP that they have developed. A part of bringing this project before you, staff has created an agenda memo, and tonight's public hearing has been properly noticed. The agenda memo, its associated attachments, tonight's PowerPoint presentation, and public notices mailed, posted, and published in the Westminster window are hereby entered into the public record at this time. So moving on to the vicinity map. So here's a map of the area under consideration in red that you see here. Eagles Landing subdivision is located to the east. That's a multifamily apartment complex. Big Dry Creek open space is located to the south. That's that area that's identified as green. Unincorporated Jefferson County is located to the east. That's that area that's that kind of pale white. Anthem Memory Care is also located to the east, which is in the city. Located to the west, and to the north is the Church Ranch Office Center. That's north of Church Ranch Boulevard. So criteria, slide 4 outlines criteria as 1 through 4 of the PDP, which is section 11.514 of the Westminster Municipal Code. There are 10 criteria that are reviewed for a basis of consideration for the approval of PDP amendments. Staff finds that the PDP application generally meets these criteria as outlined in the agenda memo. The first 4 criteria are that the PDP is in conformance with the applicable codes, follows appropriate planning principles, identifies any exceptions sought, and the PDP is compatible with the surrounding development. Should be noted that there are exceptions to the standards identified within this application as a result of the city, the property owner, and the developer working together to preserve historic views, city-owned open space, and the existing historic milk barn to be converted into an amenity space located on the site. Criteria 5 through 7 for the PDP ensure that the project does not adversely affect and is not adversely affected by surrounding development, and that travel to and from the intended project site is safely established. And the final 3 criteria ensure that the project may meet any land dedications that may be needed to facilitate its development, and that a corresponding ODP will be able to meet the criteria of the PDP, and that the applicant does not have any outstanding obligations to the city. So that's the PDP review for the PDP amendment. Moving on to the official development plan that's formulated for this property. This is a new ODP for this site, so it's just an establishment of an ODP versus an amendment. So we identify and review these projects based on 11.515 of the Westminster Municipal Code that has 17 criteria that we take a look at for the basis of consideration. And we find that the ODP application generally meets these criteria as outlined in the agenda memo. So you may notice some very similar language between the PDP and the ODP criteria. The first 5 ODP criteria, for example, closely mirror the first 4 PDP criteria, those being that the ODP is in conformance with applicable codes, follows appropriate planning principles, identifies any exceptions sought, and that it is compatible with the surrounding development. One other criteria that is introduced in the ODP is that it must be compatible with the PDP. Moving on through criteria 6 through 10, they ensure that the project does not adversely affect and is not adversely affected by surrounding development. Additionally, physical attributes of buildings, including height, bulk, setbacks, and materials and architecture are discussed, so we get more into the site specifics. And criteria 11 through 14 address more of the physical elements of the design proposed for the project, including fencing, walls, landscaping. Also discussed are vehicular, circulation, access, parking, ensuring minimum hazards of vehicles and pedestrians within and around the site. And finally, criteria 15 through 17 focus on additional pedestrian standards, adequacy of utilities and storm facilities to serve the proposed development. And as with the PDP, the applicant does not have any outstanding obligations to the city. The applicant for this project will be addressing these 27 PDP and ODP criteria further in their presentation, and also going through the exceptions as well that are listed within the PDP and the ODP. To mention that this Planning Commission meeting was held on September 24th. The Planning Commission voted 7-0 to recommend approval of the PDP amendment and the ODP to City Council. So tonight's staff recommendation is to hold a public hearing, approve the PDP amendment and ODP to the development proposed, known as Legends at Church Ranch, located on a 6-acre parcel in the Church Ranch Home Place subdivision on the southeast corner of Wadsworth Boulevard and Church Ranch Boulevard. If approved, Legends at Church Ranch will consist of a 205 for-rent affordable senior apartment unit complex. The recommendation is based on the finding that the PDP is generally supported by the standards set forth in Section 11.514 of the Westminster Municipal Code, and that the ODP is generally supported by the standards set forth in 11.515 of the Westminster Municipal Code. The application meets 2 of the city's strategic plan goals as follows. It's the visionary leadership, effective governance, and proactive regional collaboration, and the vibrant, inclusive, and engaged community. So that concludes my presentation this evening. The developer here and property owner, Ron Mell, is here to speak on behalf of the project.
Okay, just a second before we bring you can fine, just stay there. This will take but a minute. Councilors, any questions of staff at this time on what she presented? Okay. Sir, if you would please identify yourself and tell us why you're here.
Sure. Thank you, Mayor and members of City Council. My name is Ron Mell. I am a project partner with Dominium Development. I'm also a resident of Westminster. And I'm here to talk about the proposed development.
Okay, go ahead.
So the agenda tonight that I want to review with you is an introduction of our company, tell you a little bit about us, what we do, give a project overview, and as Stephanie mentioned, go over the exceptions. Talk a little bit about the traffic study, a little bit about our residents. We like to know who lives in our buildings and take great pride in knowing that. And then also just open it up for questions and answers from the council and anyone else who has any questions. So a little bit about us. We have about 33,000 units, more than 33,000 units in 23 states. And I'll talk about that a little bit more later. But one of the things I thought would be important to share with you is some images of similar developments that we've done. About 25% of our portfolio is affordable senior housing. So that's 8,250 units of affordable senior housing. We do this across the nation. You'll see a theme here. You'll see legends of Spring Lake Park, legends of Champlin, legends of Apple Valley. We like to brand our senior projects with that legends name. These are all examples of 4-story, double-loaded corridor senior developments that are similar to what we'd be proposing at the Church Ranch site. Some images of the interior and exterior common area space. We have lots of amenities for our residents that are really designed for our residents as seniors who live in our spaces, from our exercise facilities to beauty salons to common area kitchens, many seating areas that are very centrally located within the development. As I had mentioned, beauty salons, movie theaters, card craft rooms. This is a picture of a library down below, and grand entries when you come into our properties. And we will have the same design team helping us with all the interiors that you saw in all those photos. So again, 23 states, 33,000 units. We have about 45 years of experience, more than 45 years of experience. And our core expertise is affordable housing. That's what we do. We have a long-term perspective. We have 2 companies. We have Dominium Property Management and Dominium Development. We manage all of our own properties, and we don't manage for anyone else. We used to, but we found that when that happens, we have a tendency to take that call and work for them and not focus on our properties. So about 15 years ago, we just started managing our own properties. This is an image of our current position. Our headquarters are in Minneapolis. We do have an office in Broomfield and a development team staff here in Colorado. With this development, we will be over 1,000 units in Colorado, something we're looking forward to celebrating. You see the fee interim there when I said we don't fee manage for other people. Oftentimes we do manage for banks who are reluctant owners of affordable housing properties. We do that with the intent to buy the property. So we have over 1,000 employees. 830 of those are site people. A majority of our staff are people that are on site. And off to the right, you'll see properties owned. And it's a very seasoned portfolio in various year classes. That's something investors like to see, especially of affordable housing developers, and something that we like to show as well as long-term owners of what we build. So our goal is to really provide a quality experience for our residents. We want our properties to feel like market rate properties. When you walk into any dominium development, we want it to be no difference between anything you see as a market rate development and affordable housing development. We think all people and our residents deserve to live in properties that are well maintained and can be proud to call home. We're also good corporate citizens. Our site staff and our development team always volunteer in the communities that we do developments in. We take part in National Night Out, and then our residents oftentimes get very involved in those things as well, which is something that we like. The project location, as Stephanie had mentioned, is something that has a lot of attributes to it. Between 36 and Wadsworth, there's a lot of common area amenities that are great for seniors, from grocery to Walgreens to the shops at Walnut Creek. City Center Community Center is for exercise and those sorts of things is just down the road. There's the AMC Theater. It's just a fantastic site for this type of affordable development. So as Stephanie mentioned, it's 205 units of high-quality affordable housing. We spent a lot of time working internally on the site design and also with city staff on the layout. The units themselves have all the amenities of a single-family home with washers and dryers in the units. We also have a common area laundry room that people can use for larger items. 9-foot ceilings, carpet and luxury vinyl flooring. We'll have garage parking. That is at an extra charge. Community kitchens, clubhouses, and some of the things that I had shown in the pictures before. So we'll be using Class A materials. It'll be hardy board, stucco, glass, brick, all those sorts of things. Wood frame construction with masonry. It's a green building, so we do meet all the requirements for CHAFA's green communities. So it'll be a very efficient building as well. This is a rendering looking from the east, looking west that we put together. You'll see a couple things here that I'll go over in another slide, but the one thing that I want to point out is the reuse of the barn. That is not on the historic registry, but we did work with the seller closely on a reuse agreement where we're going to be reusing that barn as community common space for our residents, as well as some office space for our development team. So we'll be happy to move from Broomfield to Westminster as our corporate office, so it's exciting. Some of the things that I mentioned, the barn in the upper left-hand corner. The other thing in the center is a porte-cochere. We always do a covered pull-in area for our residents to get picked up and dropped off. All of our amenities that I talked about are really centrally located behind that porte-cochere in the center of the building, so that it kind of becomes like a town hall area where our residents can come for beauty appointments. We do silver sneakers classes, all sorts of community involvement things that occur there. And then we worked real hard to focus on the corners of the buildings, and I'll talk a little bit more about that when we get into the exceptions. Into the code exceptions, there are 13 of them. Bear with me. I'm going to work through them as quickly as possible, and then if there are questions about any of them, I'd be glad to answer those. So building setbacks, there's 2 locations where the building setbacks are not being met. We work very closely with site staff or with the city staff reviewing multiple site plan layouts for this development. Reducing the setback along Wadsworth Boulevard allows us to screen the parking behind the building as well as retain the required parking ratios. It also allows for view corridors of the barn from Wadsworth, which we and the city felt were important. The second item is, setback from private drives is 25 feet from the back of the curb, with an additional 10 for every story beyond 2 stories. We have a reduced setback along Church Ranch, and this is because we have a shared access drive with Eagles Landing. It's an existing condition that constrains the building setbacks at 20 and helps to accommodate a 26-foot wide fire lane, which is a primary standard needed to be met. The second item is our landscaped areas. Landscaped areas for the multifamily housing design standards is 40%. We had a strong desire to preserve the barn, and that took up some of that space. As a common area amenity for our residents, in addition, we were willing to sign that reuse agreement as part of our acquisition of the property. And retaining the barn decreases the amount of achievable landscape percentage. In lieu of that, we're going to 36% landscaped area and increasing the size and quality of what our landscaping is going to be. Up 4% of the trees and vegetation, increasing the caliper size of the trees from 2 inches to 2.5 inches in diameter. The detention pond is something that can't be met within the 50-foot setback adjacent to the city-owned open space. The detention pond is allowed, however, to be within the required setback, landscape setback, which is where we're going to be putting it. It is allowed, but that requires an increase in vegetation around the pond to blend with the open space to the south. So we will be increasing the vegetation to allow for that. Landscaped islands within the parking lots. The required parking islands must be a minimum of 2 parking spaces. Decreasing the size of the parking islands allows the site to accommodate the minimum parking and drive aisle requirements. Covered parking shall be 1/3 of the total parking area in garages. We're providing 20% covered parking for this site. The balance of the parking will be covered with garages and carports, but this reduction helps assist with better circulation and view preservation of the barn. And single garages are required to be a minimum of 12 feet in width. Our standard is 10 feet 7 inches. To accommodate this restriction, or this reduction in the garage stall width, we're providing large storage lockers on every floor for our residents. These are indoor storage areas for our residents' use only. Number 7, the landscape requirement setback is 35 feet on all sides and 50 adjacent to open space. As I mentioned earlier, we worked very closely with city staff, reviewing multiple site plan options. As we worked through this, it was the city's request, and we felt it was a good decision, to move the buildings closer to the main arterials on the west side. This was done thoughtfully to screen the parking from the public right-of-way, and again, to preserve the view corridor of the historic barn. Again, we're going to be doing the 4% above the required trees and bushes to be installed, and what that equates to is 1 tree and 3 bushes per 500 square feet instead of 550 square feet. Landscape medians, it's required that they be 10-foot minimum in width and 50 feet in length. The median provided at the entrance of Wadsworth is 5 feet in width and 22 feet in length, and at Church Ranch it's 10 feet and 10 feet wide by 33 feet. To accommodate this reduction in required dimensions, the main entrance on Wadsworth will have an enhanced ranch-style architecture that supports the historical content and character of the site. We're proposing a gateway landscape stone arch feature at the main entry on Wadsworth. I'm going to skip to the next slide so you can see that. So we're trying to really enhance the front entryway in lieu of some of the reduced medians. And again, the one off of Church Ranch is an existing condition with Eagles Landing that we're working with. Number 9, balcony and patios. 120 square foot minimum is required for patios, and 80 square foot minimum is required for 50% of all balconies. We are going to be having balconies and patios on all homes on the property. What we do have is a common area patio that is 1,964 square feet on the back side of the property, right adjacent to our common area amenities. And we'll have another patio that's 567 square feet. So when we added the individual patios that we're providing, along with the common area patios, it far exceeds the average per unit requirement that the city has for patios. Hot tub is another requirement. A hot tub and children's splash pad is provided. As a senior development, we typically don't see those types of amenities in our developments. And the restoration of the barn will serve as a common area gathering space, which is more appropriate for the types of residents that we have. We really like the adjacency to Dry Creek. We have direct access to the creek for our residents to enjoy that space as well. Buildings with more than 2 stories. Earlier I had mentioned the fact that the corners of the buildings were flat roofs. That's to help with that look. It's hard for us to get the density that's required for this type of a development. In addition, we'll be doing horizontal metal awnings at the 2nd-story windows that will provide a break to the vertical mass at the corners. Number 12, the private streets and drives. Private streets and drives are required to be 25 feet from the back of the curve. In order to meet the 26 50-foot fire lane. We're proposing a reduced setback. And again, that's that shared access drive that's an existing condition with Eagles Landing. And then the last one, parking setbacks along the interior of the property lines to be 15 feet at the parking lots and are not to be located within a landscape setback. To decrease the impact of the reduced setback, we'll provide the 4% required trees and bushes. And again, it equates to 1 tree and 3 bushes per 500 square feet instead of the 550. So that's the list of exceptions. We did have a traffic study done. What you see before you is the existing traffic study or traffic conditions. At AM peak hours, there's 14 exits. Most of those are coming off of Church Ranch at that shared access. Those residents today are the tenants from Eagles Landing that live at that end of the building. There's 0 entrances in the morning onto Church Ranch, and in the evening we have 5 exits and 12 entrances. With the addition of Legends of Church Ranch, no additional turn lanes or other road improvements are required, and the projected traffic conditions will increase, obviously. AM peak hours will have 26 exits and 14 entrances, and the PM peak hours will have 24 exits and 26 entrances. And this includes both the entrance on Wadsworth as well as Church Ranch. What we've found with our residents in these types of developments is they really choose to travel in off-peak hours. So that's why you don't see as much. If this was a general occupancy development, you'd see considerably more. Or if it was commercial, as it was originally zoned, you'd see quite a bit more traffic in those peak hours. So one thing I'd mentioned earlier is we like to know our residents and understand our customers. We recently did a study of our senior developments that are similar to this. And we had 1,619 respondents. I'm not going to go through all this, but I just want to highlight a couple items. You'll see head of household, 1,298, 80%. Those are single household people that are living there. So these are 1 and 2 bedroom units that we're going to be building. The other thing that's important to recognize here is that if you look under gender, we have 72% are primarily female. So you start to get an idea of who our residents are. 63%, when you add up the people between 62 and 79, are 63% are between that age. So when you look at our developments, it's primarily female. 80% are single head of household, and they're between 62 and 79 years of age. I want to go over the rents and incomes real quick. We're excited about income averaging. This is new. Colorado Housing Finance Authority is allowing this year for the first time. In the past, you'd see affordable housing developments that were limited to people who make 60% of the area median income or less. Oftentimes, there's a handful of units that are at a deeper set aside when you're partnering with a housing authority or those sorts of things. This year, we're going to be allowed to do income averaging. And so what that allows us to do is have all of our units average 60% of the area median income. So we can serve more families or seniors and families at those lower AMI levels at 40 and 50%, which is something we're really excited about. The other thing that we find in all of our developments is we turn away a lot of people who are just slightly over income qualified. They can't afford to live in market rate housing. And so they end up living in Class C, Class D apartments. What this allows us to do by doing the 70 and 80% of the area median income is kind of hit that missing middle, which is, I think, I'm really excited about the opportunity to do this. And you can see the rents at the bottom there. Even at the 80% level, we're about $250 to $300 less than the market rate. So, and that's it. I'm available for questions.
Does anyone have any questions at this time? Mr. Mel, in regards to your income averaging.
Yes, sir.
And I saw you have the 1 and 2. Are there any 3-bedroom units in this building?
We don't have any 3-bedroom
No
units.
3-bedroom? Okay.
No, it's all 1 and 2s. In other markets, we do a handful of 3-bedroom units. It helps with the pro forma, and we do find that there are people that use those 3-bedroom units. Colorado Housing Finance Agency, or Authority, does not allow for 3-bedroom units in senior developments. It really gets to cost containment. And when you start talking about federal dollars and tax credits, trying to hit the most used, highest and best use, I guess, for senior developments, it does make a lot of sense.
Can you go back to the slide that shows the intersection of Wadsworth and Church Ranch? That's, go back one more back. There you go, that's fine. In the layout, you've got Eagles Landing. There is no connection between Eagles Landing and your property other than the street between the two for fire access, is that correct?
Yes, there isn't, there is a shared access easement between our two properties.
And from the updates on Wadsworth at Church Ranch, that's currently a four-way turn, full service there.
Yes.
But the turn lane is basically non-existent. Are you planning on creating that?
We are not. Our traffic's
We're going north on Wadsworth to go east on Church Ranch. Is that part of your stuff?
If you're going north on Wadsworth
Yep.
and then heading east on Church Ranch,
Right.
no, there is not a plan for us to create a turn lane there.
Ms. Sykes?
Thank you so much. I also had a quick question about the income averaging that you discussed. Are you going to use a formula right out of the gate where you've assigned, and I apologize if this was in our agenda and I missed it, a certain number of units that are for 40% for the different mixes, or is it going to be dynamic based off of who applies?
Well, I'm glad you asked that. So they're spread evenly. So if I do one bedroom unit at 40%, I need to do one bedroom unit at 80%, and they can float between the units. So it's really what's available, just so long as our unit mix matches the 60% area median income average.
Okay.
Yeah, CHAFA is very specific about that. And I again agree with them on this. It shouldn't be an opportunity for a developer to go in and add a bunch of 80% units in large two-bedroom units. It should be spread across the different unit types. And so that's what we will be doing.
Great, thank you.
Other questions of the applicant from council at this time? All right, sir.
Great, thank you.
very much. Mr. Bowles, did you have a question?
Yeah, I just want to, I understand this correctly, that you did meet the city's parking, what we normally require. That's not an exception in here, it doesn't look like.
It's not an
so-
exception in here. CHAFA does have certain requirements as well for our residents that we meet, so.
Okay, thank you.
Yep, thank you.
All right, staff, any last comments?
No.
Okay, and your recommendation is that of the planning commission?
Yes, we recommend approval.
Any other council questions from either staff or this before we close the public hearing, or before I open up the public hearing? Mr. Bowles, did you have another question?
I did. So this is R36, is that correct? And they're building up to R36?
They're not quite meeting R36. They're around, they're less than that, like R34-ish.
Let's say again, R34?
Yeah, they're about around R34. They're not hitting the full R36 density.
Is this an example of a property that was zoned, like an old zoning designation that we no longer have? Or is that a different property? I'm getting confused.
This,
Like R12 or something we don't have anymore?
This was originally an office designation.
Okay. Thank you.
Any other questions from council at this time? All right, seeing none, I will now open this up to the public. If anyone in the audience has any questions or comments that they'd like to come forward with at this time, we'll entertain those. And this is either you're for the applicant or you're against the applicant, either one. But any comments or questions, please address them to the chair. Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, I'm looking at the original conditions, and I know the barn is being saved, but a lot of the existing trees look like they're being taken out, and the character of that space looks like it's kind of being eliminated except for the barn. Is there any consideration of the existing large trees?
Please address them up here, miss. Don't turn to the applicant.
Okay.
Here.
Yeah.
Is that the only question you have?
Well, yeah, I mean, the character of the space is of concern because I know the architecture is supposed to be, I guess, kind of farm-like or something, but it looks like an awful lot of parking, a lot of asphalt, and the fact that there's diminished landscaping, it looks like diminished landscaping,
Okay.
honestly.
So if you want to hang back and we'll try to get you an answer. First, I'm on staff. Is there any comments that you'd like to add to this as far as the requirements from the development?
So we did an existing conditions analysis with the trees on site, and at the time, we determined that there weren't any that could be saved to be able to meet the density that's required for the site and the building placement.
What about the parking issue?
Well, the site needs to meet the city's parking requirements, and the requirement, there's a 40% landscape for the area, and the applicant is meeting 36. And so from the staff's analysis, we determined that, by saving the barn and having them focus on some of the landscaping that's adjacent to the city's open space kind of helps blend that visual cue, I guess, of landscaping on the site, meeting that landscape percentage. What we want to make sure, though, is that the site is meeting its parking requirements so that there's no overflow onto adjacent sites that could impact the community.
I would like to add to that in terms of the paved parking lot. It is obstructed by the building as well as the perimeter landscaping and the adjacent open space.
Okay, Ms. Navani, does that answer your question?
Well, I know that by reducing the density of the building itself, reducing the footprint of the building, you can actually accommodate more landscaping. And basically what has happened is the building has increased and the parking needs have increased, and all of that is done at the expense of the green space. Is there some, it's 226 units. Would it be terrible if it were like 200 units and some of the landscaping requirements were actually met and then the parking requirements were diminished therefore?
Well, staff can't answer the question about reducing the number of units, but I'll certainly ask the developer if he'd like to consider that.
That's one way of meeting it.
Again, ma'am, direct your questions to here.
Right.
And I got your question, so is there anything else? Because I'll ask the developer in a moment.
Right. That's basically it just visually looks like a lot of pavement, a lot of impervious coverage on a site that had a lot of pervious coverage. So that's my comment.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Mel, you'd like to address the idea if you would consider reducing the size of the project and also the amount of parking that would go with the reducing number of units?
Sure, I'll address the question. Sure. So it's not 226 units, it's 205 units. Given that it's affordable housing, it's really hard to reduce density and make the math work on affordable housing development. Our rents are capped based on the schedule that I shared earlier. My rents are what they are, and my expenses are what they are. Xcel Energy doesn't care if it's an affordable housing development or a market rate development. We're doing the minimum amount of units that we can to make it a feasible, affordable housing project to create a much needed housing opportunity for a variety of different people in the city of Westminster. When we look at how quickly our other affordable housing developments are leasing up, we're 100% leased before we're even have our first temporary certificate of occupancy. It really speaks to the crisis of affordable housing, and that's what we're working to address. As far as landscaping goes, we're doing everything we can to increase the quality of what we're doing because of the 36 versus 40 by increasing tree caliper size, additional landscaping where we can, and the barn is important. So,
thank you, sir. Anyone else have any comments that they'd like to add? Yes, sir. Come on up.
I need to state my name.
Sure, go ahead.
Don Fittis, 9933 Grove Place. Appreciate the presentation. My question was on the aesthetic. Not entirely familiar with the project, but I heard the comment that on the corners there was going to be a flat roof. And when I look at these pictures and I see a flat roof versus an angled roof, in my mind that's less than desirable aesthetically. And I wonder if that could be addressed.
Sure. Hang on a minute. Ms. Venice. Staff?
So, we have better elevations within the attached official development plan. However, we did require in the PDP and in the ODP that the roof forms and a lot of the details match similar to the barn specifically on site. The flat corners at the end, and there's also a flat roof line in the center, was to reduce the mass, the actual size of the building visually along Wadsworth, so that it can be broken up into to look like multiple buildings instead of one building with one architectural application for roof form. So we did definitely take a lot of in consideration into trying to achieve that farm sort of quality in the architecture.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Venice. Anyone else? All right, seeing no other comments, I'll close the public hearing. And then we will turn to the council if anyone has any comments or questions they ask. If not, we'll entertain a motion. Ms. Scully. Okay, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I move to approve the preliminary development plan amendment for filing 10 of the Church Ranch Home Place planned unit development totaling 6.08 acres.
Mr. Demont.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion by council on this application? Mr. Demont.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. First, thank you to staff and to the applicant for bringing this forward. I think, like the applicant stated, this definitely fills a need in the city. Specifically, I am interested often in the senior affordable housing, as that's going to be more and more of a need in the coming decade. So I really like this project. I think it's going to fit very well in that area, which is kind of my neck of the woods. So I'm looking forward to voting on this tonight.
Other comments from council? What I will add is, Mr. Mel, this kind of convened that this is coming in not too far off the heels of a presentation we had by the Denver Regional Council of Government on senior housing. So between now and 2040, the age group of 65 and over, and between Adams and Jefferson County both, will grow over 200% of what it is today. So the demand for senior housing is not going to flatten out. It's going to exceed any capacity we have to provide affordable housing for seniors, where they can not have to stay in large single-family homes and get something more into the community style that you're proposing in mind. So personally, I appreciate the fact you're bringing it forward, that it's an affordable housing unit, which is very important to our seniors and many of us who are looking at that facility in the future ourselves. But the fact that we have such a need for affordable housing, not only in our senior population, but others as well, that we just can't meet the needs not only here in Westminster, but the entire region. We are so short on affordable housing. I applaud you for doing this. We all from the council understand the challenges of people that are working in this area of affordable housing. It is much different than market rate housing. And the fact that you go through it and the application with the government funding and the CHAF and everything else is a credit to your being here tonight. So I appreciate it myself. Any other comments or questions from council? Ms. Mankey?
Yeah, I just wanted to thank staff and everyone here tonight. Just want to say I was really, some of the things that stood out for me with this development is that it is a historical ranch, and it plays a big history in our city, and that a large part of this original piece of land was dedicated to open space. So this is a small parcel of a larger plot that has been dedicated to open space. And the fact that the barn was able to be preserved, as well as I believe some of the materials have been chosen in order to sort of reflect the original ranch and barn, I think is a real nice nod to the McKay family and this ranch here and the history to our city. Also want to reiterate the need that we know we have for senior housing. So I am in support of this because I feel like we know now that for every senior need we have for senior housing, we have many, many seniors that would apply for that that property. Also know that a lot of those are seniors that have had to actually move out of our city and now are looking to return, and that it's really important for our seniors to age in place, and that's a real large part of their health and well-being. So I just wanted to reiterate that need for the senior housing.
Ms. Sykes?
Thank you so much. And again, thank you for this project. I happened to have the pleasure of serving on council when it was before us the first time. And so it's nice to see it follow through. So I'm going to be voting yes on the PDP amendment because I believe it meets all 1 through 10 of the criteria set forth. But specifically the first, which is the PUD zoning and proposed land uses and the associated PDP are in conformance with the city's comprehensive plan and all city codes, ordinances, and policies. I think Councilor DeMont and Councilor Mankey both and the mayor described the real true need that we have, not just for affordable housing, but specifically senior affordable housing. That is a strategic plan objective. We also want to be inclusive and a vibrant community, and I think having senior housing helps us achieve that. The second criteria, the PDP exhibits the application of sound, creative, innovative, and efficient planning principles. I have to really compliment you on saving that historic barn in the silos, the use of green design, energy efficiency, and I'm hoping it also means water efficiency, but appreciate that. And the third, any exceptions from the standard code requirements or limitations are warranted by the virtue of design or special amenities incorporated in the development proposal. I do not want Ms. Calavity, who spoke, to think that I was not concerned about the exception in regards to the percentage for landscaping. However, I agree with staff's recommendation that that exception's warranted based off of the historic preservation, the fact that they're going to enhance the landscaping that they're doing, and the addition of the green design helped me get there. In addition to all, I believe it was 13 exceptions I felt were warranted and were are warranted because of the innovation of design. So in addition to the other criteria, I feel very comfortable and excited to support this project.
Any other questions or comments from council? Seeing none, ladies and gentlemen, this is a vote with your lights, please. And the motion is carried on a 6-0 vote. Ms. Scully, would you take item A3, please?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, thank you. I move to approve the official development plan for filing 10 of the Church Ranch Home Place Planned Unit Development totaling 6.08 acres.
Mr. DeMont?
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion on item 10A3? Ms. Seitz, do you have a comment?
Yes, I just want to reiterate that I'm going to be voting yes in favor of this because I do believe the 17 criteria that are laid forth for our approval of an ODP have been met. And I think that this will be a harmonious addition that is compatible with all public and private development in the surrounding area and again meets a need of the city.
Any other comments from council? All right, seeing none, ladies and gentlemen, this is a vote with your lights as well. And the motion is carried on a 6-0 vote. Moving on to the next item on item 10B, this is Councilor's Bill number 40. Mr. DeMont.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I move to pass Councilor Bill number 40 on first reading, appropriating funds received from the United States Department of Housing and Urban Development Community Development Block Grant Program in the amount of $604,141.
Ms. Sykes.
Second.
I have a motion and a second for Councilor's Bill number 40. Is there any comments or questions from council? Ms. Sykes.
Yeah, I just want to say I believe in some ways this is connected to the previous business before us. Our emergency repair program allows people to stay in their homes. It also helps with mobility challenges that residents have. So this will help fund that important. I believe it's about $180,000 going towards that important program.
Other comments from council? Ladies and gentlemen, this is a roll call vote. Ms. Fitch, if you will, please.
Atchison.
Yes.
DeMont.
Yes.
Minky.
Yes.
Seitz.
Yes.
Scully.
Yes.
Vols.
Yes.
Thank you. you, ladies and gentlemen. The motion carries on a 6-0 vote. Next item on the agenda is Council's Bill number 41. Mr. Demont.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I move to pass Council Bill number 41 on first reading, authorizing the city manager to execute an economic development agreement with Westminster Leased Housing Associates 1 LLLP for Legends of Church Ranch in substantially the same form as presented.
Ms. Sight.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion by council? Seeing none, this is also a roll call vote. Ms. Fitch, if you would.
Demott.
Yes.
Minky.
Yes.
Sights.
Yes.
Scully.
Yes.
Bowles.
Yes.
Atchison.
Yes. Motion is carried on a 6-0 vote. Next item will be item 10D and 10D1. This is resolution number 24. Ms. Scully.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I move to adopt resolution number 24, authorizing the city manager to sign a repurchase option and post-closing agreement with Westminster SP LLC for lots 1 and 2, Block 1, Westminster Station, filing number 1, associated with the sale of .81 acres of land in substantially the same form as presented.
Mr. Bowles.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion by this item? Seeing none, this is a roll call vote. Ms. Fitch, if you would.
Minky.
Yes.
Sights.
Yes.
Scully.
Yes.
Bowles.
Yes.
Atchison.
Yes.
Demott.
Yes.
6-0 vote. Thank you very much. Next item is, Ms. Scully, if you would, item 10D2.
I move to pass Councilor's Bill number 42 on first reading, authorizing the city manager to execute an economic development agreement with Westminster SP LLC for the development of 2 mixed-use buildings in substantially the same form as presented in Attachment B.
Mr. Bowles.
Second.
I have a motion and a second for item 10D2, Council's Bill number 42. Is there any discussion or comments by council? Ms. Sights? Okay. Again, this is a roll call vote. Ms. Fitch, if you would, please.
Sights.
Yes.
Scully.
Yes.
Bowles.
Yes.
Atchison.
Yes.
Demott.
Yes.
Minky.
Yes.
Motion squeaks by on another 6-0 vote. Doing all right. Next item is item 10D3. Ms. Scully, if you would, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I move to pass Councilor's Bill number 43 on first reading, authorizing the city manager to execute a parking, maintenance, and use agreement with Westminster SP LLC for the leasing of the required number of residential parking spaces to support the development of 2 mixed-use buildings on lots 1 and 2, Block 1, Westminster Station, filing number 1, in substantially the same form as the agreement in Attachment C.
Any comments or questions? I'm sorry, Mr. Bowles, you're a second, I
Second.
presume. Okay, thank you. Are there any comments or questions by council? Seeing none, this is a roll call vote as well. Ms. Fitch?
Scully.
Yes.
Bowles.
Yes.
Atchison.
Yes.
Demott.
Yes.
Minky.
Yes.
Sights.
Yes.
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. We move on to item 10E, authorization to execute an amendment to the term of the Stanley Lake IGA. Mr. Bowles?
I move to authorize the city manager to execute an amendment to extend by 1 year the term of the Stanley Lake Park intergovernmental agreement between the City of Westminster, the City of Thornton, and the City of North Glen dated November 28th, 1994.
Ms. Sight?
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, ladies and gentlemen, this is a vote with your lights, please. And the motion carries on a 6-0 vote. Next item is item 10F. This is authorization for a sole source agreement for the fire department's purchases. Ms. Sights?
Thank you. I move to authorize an amendment to the existing sole source agreement for the fire department's cumulative purchases with Stryker Medical Corporation to increase purchase authority from $50,000 to $125,000 annually for fiscal years 2019, 2020, and 2021, based on the recommendation of the city manager that the public interest will be best served.
Mr. Demont?
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion by council on item 10F? Seeing none, ladies and gentlemen, this is a vote with your button, please. And the motion motion carries on a 6-0 vote. Next item up is item 10G. This is expenditure for software for the justice system for court reporters. Ms. Mankey?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I move, based on the recommendation of the city manager, to find that the public interest will be best served by authorizing expenditures with Justice Systems, Inc. for the annual maintenance and support fee, an on-site software assessment, and for the purchase of additional software modules to enhance operational efficiency in the amount not to exceed $90,000.
Mr. Vols?
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion by council? Seeing none, ladies and gentlemen, this is also a vote with your button, please. And the motion carries on a 6-0 vote. Next item is item 10H. Ms. Scully?
I move to authorize the mayor to execute a revised employment agreement with David R. Frankel for his services as city attorney for 2020 with an effective date of January 1, 2020, and an automatic renewal for 2021, 2022, 2023, and 2024 unless terminated pursuant to the terms of the agreement.
Mr. Vols?
I gladly second the motion.
I have a motion and a second for item 10H. Is there any comments or questions by council? Ms. Scully, you had a comment.
I do. This is such a privilege to support. Thank you, Mr. Frankel, for your service to our city. Westminster does such a great job in hiring highly skilled, talented people who really care about our city and work so hard for our city. So this was a great privilege. Thank you again.
Any other comments from council? Seeing none, this is a vote with your buttons, ladies and gentlemen. And the motion carries on a 6-0 vote. Next item is item 10I. Ms. Scully?
I move to authorize the mayor to execute a revised employment agreement with Donald M. Tripp for his services as city manager for 2020 with an effective date of January 1, 2020, and an automatic renewal for 2021, 2022, 2023, and 2024 unless terminated pursuant to the terms of the agreement.
Mr. Vols?
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Is there any comments or questions by staff? By council? Ms. Scully?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I would also like to thank Mr. Tripp for all his fine service to our city as well. You do a great job, and I think that that's evident in that we're renewing the contract and renewing our terms with you. We hire people that just work so hard and really are thoughtful in how they are directing our city and guiding us. And they listen, and they're willing to reconsider when we don't always agree on things. And I just really appreciate that, so thank you.
Mr. DeMont?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So one of the things that happens here on this council is any decision that is made has to be put forward by the majority of council. That sometimes puts some of us on the other end of the majority of council. However, we're all elected by the public, and we should all be treated equally. I feel that there have been and experienced times where I have not been given such treatment. So such things as being questioned about how many questions I ask, or being insinuated how I could be dealt with, or things of that nature. Do not think that I've been dealt with appropriately always. That's an unfortunate thing coming into a position like this. Each member of this council was placed here by the electorate and should all be treated equally, whether we are in the majority or minority. That is what I wanted to state, because I think that the public also deserves to know why we would vote no on one of our 3 employees.
Mr. Vols?
So I want to, first I want to say I respect Councilor DeMott's statements there, but as a new councilor on this council, I want to thank our city manager, Don Tripp, for all of the counsel and advice and help along the way as a new councilman. I really appreciate it, and I'm very glad to vote yes for this. So thanks again.
Other comments from council, Ms. Seitz?
Yeah, I just want to say one of the things that we were given to help us review our staff members, specifically Don Tripp, was a report on what we have accomplished in our city in the last year. And everyone who works for this organization or lives in this community should really be proud of what the city has accomplished over this year. And honestly, over the last 5 years. we've gotten quite a bit done. The city has won over 100 awards or acknowledgments or accolades for best practices in municipal government. So I just have to say it has been an absolute privilege to be on this team. The mayor and I actually hired all three of our appointees, and I have to say, when you're hiring, you always want to hire people who are brighter and better than you, and I have been very successful in doing that. So,
Any other comments by council? Well, I'm not sure that I agree with some of the comments Councilor DeMott made, because I have never found the opportunity that if somebody wanted to sit down and talk to the city manager on any item, that was not available to them, whether it was privately or as a group. Now, not everybody always chooses to do that, but that's their option. They're not going to always agree. That's also true. But I have gone through 3 city managers on my time here, and I have never had one that I could not talk to on an individual basis. And I will tell you, there were some times with some of the past city managers, and including the current one, that I don't agree. But I can work that out. And we take that seriously, that we have that opportunity to communicate at any time we wish. So I would tell you that each individual council member makes their own decisions on how they want to ask questions, how they want to receive comments. But I have never seen the city manager not willing to sit down and talk to them. But it's a two-way street. You got to both do it. Mr. Mott, you have another comment?
Yes, sir. Thank you very much. I appreciate all of your comments. I will add that, yes, I did stop doing one-on-ones. And part of the reason is I feel that in my one-on-ones, there were discussions that I think would have been better heard by the entire council. Cannot speak for what happened in other meetings. Likewise, there were meetings where I was shouted at in public places. I've had people seen me shouted at in public places. Maybe that's not the experience the rest of the council has, and I'm glad it's not, because no council member should deal with that from one of our 3 employees or anybody else for that matter. So it's unfortunate that that's the experience that I've had, and I'm glad to hear that others have not had that experience. But unfortunately, I also will think it's important that people hear why I'm voting no again.
Well, I'm going to stick by the comments I've already provided, and I have worked with, like I said, 3 city managers. I have had no fault with any of the 3, and I especially don't have any faults with the current one. This time, ladies and gentlemen, this is a vote with your buttons, please. And the motion passes on a 5-1 vote. Next item of business is the Council's Bill number 37. This is a second reading. Mr. Vols.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I move to pass Councilor's Bill number 37 on second reading, amending the adopted 2020 budgets of the General, Water, Wastewater, Legacy Ridge Golf Course, Walnut Creek Golf Preserve, Storm Drainage, Parking Management, Fleet Maintenance, General Capital Outlay Replacement, Sales and Use Tax, Parks, Open Space and Trails, Conservation Trust, and the General Capital Improvement Funds.
Ms. Seitz.
second.
I have a motion and a second for Council's Bill number 37. Do any other comments or questions? This is a roll call vote. Ms. Fitch, if you would, please.
Vols.
Yes.
Atchison.
Yes.
DeMott. No. Menke.
Yes.
Seitz.
Yes.
Scully.
Yes.
And the motion passes on a 5-1 vote. Ladies and gentlemen, that concludes the business of the Westminster City Council for tonight. We will now reconvene as the Westminster Economic Development Authority Board. The roll call will stand as previously noted. The absence of the board member Haney will stay as the motion has previously been done. I will now move on to the minutes of the approval of the August 26th meeting. Mr. DeMott.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I move the board approve the minutes of the August 26, 2019 meeting as presented.
Ms. Menke.
Thank you. I second.
I have a motion and a second for approval of the board minutes of August 26th. All those in favor, please signify by aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, motion is carried. Moving on to the first item on the agenda, item 3A1, the holding of public hearing on the supplemental appropriation of the Westminster Economic Development Authority. Mr. Tripp, do we have any presentation on this? Okay. Any comments from the council or the board at this point of staff in regards to this item before we open it up to the public? Excuse me. There being none at this time, I'll open up the public hearing for anyone who has any comments in preparation of the Westminster Economic Development Authority appropriations. Seeing none at this time, I appreciate it. I will close the public hearing and then move that the board look at item 3A2, resolution number 199. That's good. Ms. Scully, if you would, please.
I move to adopt resolution number 199, authorizing a supplemental appropriation to the 2019 Westminster Economic Development Authority budget.
Mr. Vols?
Second.
I have a motion and a second for adoption of resolution number 199. Does any member of the authority have any comments? Seeing none, Ms. Fitch, this is a roll call vote.
Atchison.
Yes.
Demott.
Yes.
Menke.
Yes.
Seitz.
Yes.
Scully.
Yes.
Vols.
Yes.
And the board has a 6-0 vote on this item. Next item on the agenda is item 3B1. This is a sole source agreement with the Laramie Company for consulting services for the downtown project. Ms. Seitz?
Thank you. I move to authorize the Westminster Economic Development Authority Executive Director to enter into a one-year sole source agreement with the Laramie Company LLC to provide consultant services regarding the development of the downtown Westminster project.
Ms. Scully?
Second.
I have a motion and a second for item 3B1. Is there any comments or questions, Ms. Seitz?
Yes, I think it's really important to note the tremendous amount of success that we've seen at our downtown since we changed to a block-by-block approach. And while it is more time-consuming, we are ending up with a better product, with better tenants. And so I think that this team, all three that are about to go, have been instrumental in that. When we had the tattered cover in here earlier, I guess it was last month, they specifically named our consultant and thanked her, which I think is a big deal. So I'm going to happily vote yes for this tonight.
Any other comments from the board members? I would just echo Ms. Seitz' comments. We go clear back to the Eaton Street Apartments, and George Thorne comically continues to refer to the Laramie Company's leadership, Ms. Jenkins, as a heat-seeking missile to try to find people to come into these and vetting them along with our Economic Development Office staff. So I continue to see the work. My own experience with them is more than 20 years here in the area, starting with the Orchard, the Promenade, and now our own property here at the new downtown. So we've had a great experience with all three of these people that we're going to be talking about in a few minutes. And it's been very instrumental in helping us get to where we are today. Any other comments by any member of the authority? Seeing none, all those in favor, please vote with your lights. I'm still waiting on one. There we go. All right, now 6-0 vote. Thank you. Next item. Yep, yours.
I move to authorize Westminster Economic Development Authority Executive Director to enter into a one-year sole source agreement with John Mullins and Associates, Inc. to provide consultant services regarding the development of the downtown Westminster project.
Ms. Scully?
I second.
I have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion by any member of the authority? Seeing none, ladies and gentlemen, let's vote with your lights as well. Motion is also carried on a 6-0 vote. Next item up is item B3. Ms. Seitz?
Thank you. I move to authorize Westminster Economic Development Authority Executive Director to enter into a one-year sole source brokerage agreement with the Laramie Company LLC. This is wrong. Is that right?
Yep.
For brokerage services for the downtown Westminster project.
Ms. Scully?
I second.
I have a motion and a second for item 3B3. Are there any comments or questions from the authority? Seeing none, this is also a vote with your lights vote. This motion also carries on a 6-0 vote. Next item up is item 3C, and this is a contract with Mr. Murray Dahl. Mr. Bolts.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I move to authorize the executive director to enter into an agreement with Murray Dahl, Beery, and Renault LLP for work related to downtown Westminster and general urban renewal and eminent domain matters in an amount not to exceed $50,000.
Ms. Sykes?
Second.
I have a motion and a second for item 3C. Any comments or questions by council? I'm sorry, the authority, Ms. Sykes?
I would be remiss if I didn't comment on the shrewd, dedicated, and expert advice that we consistently get from Mr. Malcolm Murray on our downtown authority. It, to me, feels he's as bought into our vision as we are. So,
Any other comments from the authority? Seeing none, ladies and gentlemen, this is a vote with your light, please. The motion is also carried on a 6-0 vote. Well, ladies and gentlemen, I hate to ruin your night and tell you it's time to go home, but we are adjourned.